everyone. This is Margaret Manning with 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. And my guest today is Bonnie Moore. Bonnie is a retired management consultant and attorney, and she's also the founder of Golden Girls Network. It's a matchmaking service for women to find roommates and to live together in a new way after 60. So Bonnie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Great. Well, I'm really glad that you're here. We've got some really interesting questions for you. We've got a community, as you know, of women that are perfect candidates for Golden Girls Network because we're a lot of us living alone, divorced, and it sounds like that's exactly the target audience for Golden Girls Network.
Yes.
Good. So the question I've got for you right now, though, is a more practical one. So even putting aside Golden Girls Network, thinking about how you find a roommate. If you're looking for a roommate in your home, say pretend that you are someone in Golden Girls Network who's just put their, apartment on your service. What are the things you look for on both the positive side and also the side that might be a deal breaker?
Okay. Well, in my book, I talk about deal breakers and then other things that you need to think about. Some of the deal breakers are smoking, pets. You might have a pet, but you don't want any other pets, to come in.
Right.
Alcohol usage. I've had some women, in some of my classes, they've talked about this. They don't want someone who uses alcohol.
Yeah.
Other people, it's not a problem at all, but you have to tell people what your criteria, are.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Well, one of the unusual things that I actually put in the book is religious affiliation,
mm-hmm.
and it only comes up if you have very different practices.
Mm-hmm.
I had a very, very nice woman one time who was a member of a church that did not they don't observe birthdays, they don't observe holidays, those types of things. Mm-hmm. Well, I happen to love to decorate. I have birthday parties for people. That became kind of awkward. And then one October, I says, "Oh, it's time to get out the Halloween decorations." And you should have seen her face. Well, within 2 weeks, she had moved out because the decorations would have bothered her. And so it's not the religion per se. It's how does it affect the way you live and what you're comfortable with.
That is a really fascinating comment. Just to say that I think it's really interesting what you've just said, Bonnie, because in a way, the journey to finding a roommate starts with a very intense self-examination.
Yes.
Like you have to understand who you are, mm-hmm. what your boundaries are. And obviously in her case, there was something there that was a non-starter for her.
In fact, that's the title of the chapter in the book is Discover Who You Are.
Yeah.
And we had actually talked about it when she interviewed,
yes.
but I didn't realize the impact.
Yes.
So, it just happens. Another deal breaker that I have in my house is I don't want anyone to have firearms.
Right.
I have strong feelings about that. And then sometimes you just have things that differences in lifestyle, differences in who you are, cultural differences that may or may not impact. Many women have told me that they were vegetarian. And I says, well, that's an impact. You need to find another vegetarian. If you don't like the smell of bacon cooking in your house, you need to tell somebody that.
Yes.
So, just take these things into consideration.
Yeah, you need to know kind of what your lines are, like where the soft, faded lines are that can be malleable, and those that are absolutely non-starters. I mean, I did read that chapter in your book, and I forgot to read the title of it. I must have subliminally got it, but it was all things that sometimes, as you said, it's not the actual faith or the actual even background. It's how it's manifest, how you express it in your day-to-day life. What else would be a deal breaker? I'm trying to think of things if I was, I guess, maybe hours of living. I mean, if someone's a night owl or as opposed to an early morning person, but again, I guess it depends. If they're up making a lot of noise at 4 o'clock in the morning, that's different than just being an early riser and meditating, or, being quiet at 4 o'clock in the morning. So,
or if you're looking for a roommate for companionship, and you work a 9-to-5 job, you don't want to have someone who's a nurse who works, the night shift.
Yes.
Because you're never going to see her. Yeah. So there's those practical kinds of things.
And what I love about your book, and actually I will mention your book because it is a great one. It's called How to Start a Golden Girls Home. And I'll put the link into the article. But, you do a great job, I think, of actually putting some sample questions and like almost a template of the types of things that you suggest someone ask, someone. So if you're looking for a roommate, we've talked about the things that might be non-starters or deal breakers. What would be some of the things that you would consider a positive question? Like, what are the qualities that you might look for in a roommate, generic kind of qualities?
There's a couple of things that are important. One of them is a person's cleanliness level. Some people are very, very clean, and it bothers them if somebody leaves a glass on the coffee table. Some people are less concerned about those kinds of things. And that has been an issue. Another issue that's important, and it doesn't often come out in the interview, and that is the positiveness. When you're living together, you have attitude. Yeah. If you have someone who's constantly complaining, finding fault, or nitpicking, it gets old fast. You have to approach this with an attitude of, we're going to find the good things that happen today and not all the bad things.
Okay. So an open-mindedness is probably one of the important things. What else? Mm-hmm. What else do people comment about?
In my household, in other situations it may not matter, but in my household, I happen to be very interested in politics. I live in Washington, D.C. I love politics. I read the Washington Post every morning. I follow certain things. And so I'm commenting about things every once in a while, and I have the TV shows on things like this. If somebody in my house had the opposite point of view on some of these issues, we might have a hard time getting along. Yeah. So I have to kind of feel people out to see what their attitudes are about some of the social issues that I follow before I let them in my house. But that's just me.
I think that is actually both a deal breaker, and also it's an opportunity to find a kind of person, because I think it's okay to be political. I know there's husbands and wives who are completely different political, but they actually respect each other. So I guess mutual respect would be another positive quality that you might look for. Being open-minded to differences, but also respecting differences. So that might be another quality that, and also what about just I think maybe you touched on it, but just friendship. Do you think that a roommate has to want to be a friend, or do you think roommates can not be friends?
I think that you have to be willing to have a certain level of friendship. You don't want it to feel like a rooming house. In the early stages, I had a couple of people who saw this as a rooming house. This woman would come in, go to her room, come down and cook, go back to her room, wouldn't really talk, wouldn't socialize, wouldn't participate in group dinners, those kinds of things. That's not what I'm looking for. Right. And so I have to make that point when I interview people, that there is an expectation of some interaction. We try to have a group dinner once in a while, sit and have a cup of coffee once in a while, but let's talk and be friends.
So I think being sociable is another thing. But do you think that, you're in just the experience with Golden Girls Network, that most women that come to the site and are looking for roommates are looking for friends? Do you think that's the majority?
I think they're looking for some type of social interaction. Right. Now, what has happened in my house, we're all so busy with whatever we're doing. We don't have an awful lot of time together. Right. We're just all very busy people. Right. And so if somebody comes here looking for a best friend, it's not going to happen. Right. Just because people aren't available.
Right.
But if you happen to become good friends, that's an extra bonus.
So, okay. So I think I'm beginning to understand. I mean, we're talking about this in another video that, when we were younger, we lived in communes, we lived in, kind of groups, and we kind of just got on with everybody. But I think as we've got older, you start to develop, personality preferences and quirks that you maybe were more open-minded. So maybe that's one of the qualities of being a roommate, is going back a little bit to that non-judgmental self. I mean, knowing your boundaries, like we said earlier, like no pets, no firearms, no whatever, but also being, ready to sort of learn from your roommate, have an open mind.
Keeps you young. Keeps you young.
I was going to ask you a question actually, Bonnie. Do you have any men that, is your network open to men?
Yes, it is. We have, maybe 10% men registered. Okay. We have no problem with men registering. It's open to everyone over 40. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I did a survey on 60andMe it seems like a few months ago. It was probably a year ago, where we asked what kind of living situation would you prefer? And the majority said that if you, rather than live in a retirement home, they'd want to live in a mixed community where there were children and men, women. Do you let children into your environment as well? If a woman has maybe a teenager or young adult?
Not on a regular, no, not as a roommate. I had a woman here, wonderful person. She had a daughter in college who would come and stay with us, during breaks, and she'd come down, she was about an hour or so away, and we adopted her. She cooked for us, and, we had a wonderful time with her. Yeah. My grandchildren come now and again. There was a woman who had her grandchildren come, and this was several years ago, and they were young and they were noisy, and they stayed too long, things like that. So I like a house full of people. I like having people around, I tell the roommates, invite your family and friends. Yeah. And other people don't. Other people like a nice, quiet, serene place, but I don't. I like
that's the beauty of it. I think what you've created is something very unique, Bonnie. I mean, I think it enables women at all those different places, from the extreme socialite to the one that wants just a nice, quiet, group of writers getting together. Then you've got an infrastructure. Great vehicle. I mean, the website's wonderful. I encourage people to check it out. It's goldengirlsnetwork.com, and and
also check out our Facebook page.
Yes, of course. In fact, I should have said that because you put pictures of your grandchildren, I think, on your Facebook page.
Yes.
Anyway, it's really been great talking to you, learning about how to look for a roommate in your 60s and beyond. But you're, just to make sure I understand, it's 40 plus, right? Your criteria, 40. Not 60, it's 40 plus.
40 plus.
Perfect.
Because women's lives start to change at the age of 40.
Yes. No, I'm glad that I asked that question, because I think we do have a lot of women in our community who are in their 50s and even 40s, because you're right, that's when everything starts to go a bit crazy. Great, Bonnie. Thank you so much for this information. And good luck with the initiative. Hope it goes really well for you.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you.